I never wanted to be a hero of labor. I never dreamed of seeing my portrait, faded by the sun, hanging on the board of honor at the main gate, where thousands of indifferent people passed by every single day. I just wanted my family to have everything. I wanted Marina, my quiet and loyal Marina, not to have to count every penny at the grocery store, choosing between milk and bread. I wanted the kids to wear new, stylish coats instead of hand-me-downs from their older cousins. In 1975, I walked into that massive, clanging shop, a young man with burning eyes and calluses that still smelled of freedom. The roar of the machines back then sounded like a grand hymn to the future, the music of progress. I truly believed, I'll work hard for 5 years, we'll save up for a cooperative apartment, buy some real furniture, and build a life without debt, and then, finally, we'll start living. But a factory is not just a job. It's a trap that snaps shut slowly, with a metallic screech. And it does it so quietly that you eventually start calling your cage home. 10 hours at the machine, shift after shift, year after year. 76, the Olympic summer of 80, the cold winter of 85. The years didn't just pass, they flew by in the frantic rhythm of the conveyor belt. The smell of white-hot metal, the acrid smoke, and the machine oil soaked into my skin so deep that no soap, no chemicals could ever wash them out. My hands became as rough as sandpaper, and my fingers would tremble slightly in the evenings from the endless vibration of the heavy lathes. They called it professional deformation, but in reality, it was the slow destruction of a human being. I would return home when the city was already drowning in twilight, and the children had long been seeing their 10th dream, and I would leave when the cold, gray dawn was just starting to rise over the factory chimneys. I saw my children grow up only in amateur photographs that Marina carefully placed in frames on the dresser. I was the provider. I was the one who brought the heavy envelope with the paycheck, silently placed it on the kitchen table, and collapsed onto the bed in my old clothes. Because I didn't even have the strength to unlace my heavy work boots, my life turned into an endless cycle. The factory whistle, the tram, the machine, the canteen, the machine again, the tram, and sleep, round and round, decade after decade. I convinced myself it was all a great sacrifice for them. Every hour of overtime, every night shift in an unheated shop when steam came from my mouth, and the metal burned my fingers with cold. I thought about Marina, being able to buy that Yugoslavian coat or the high-heeled boots she had briefly mentioned last year. I blindly believed that a stack of crisp bills in an envelope could replace my presence at school plays, my advice to my son, or my lullabies to my daughter. I thought money was love, but I was wrong. The factory didn't just take my physical strength, it slowly, drop by drop, sucked out my soul, turning a living man into just another lubricated part of a vast, soulless mechanism. Marina endured for a long time. She was as quiet as the pre-dawn mist, and just as invisible in her sorrow. She always warmed up my dinner, which I consumed in total, oppressive silence, staring at a single point on the wall. I didn't see her crying into her pillow at night so as not to wake me before my shift. I didn't notice her growing old from the deafening loneliness within our four walls, surrounded by the furniture I had bought. She didn't need the imported carpets, the crystal in the cabinet, or the color TV. She needed a husband, a living, breathing human being who would simply hold her after a hard day and ask how she was feeling. Instead of a husband, a living shadow entered the apartment every evening, smelling of grease, metal dust, and absolute leaden exhaustion. And then came that cursed Tuesday at the very end of 1987. I had worked 2 shifts in a row, a record, a plan, a holiday bonus. I walked home through a thick blizzard, barely feeling my legs, but feeling the pleasant weight of the cash in my jacket pocket. I entered the apartment, expecting the usual warmth and the smell of fried potatoes, but I was met with an icy, absolute silence. The house was empty in a way that only a tomb can be. There was no familiar childhood whisper, no rhythmic clicking of Marina's sewing machine, only the dim light of a single lamp over the kitchen table and a perfectly white sheet of paper. Right in the middle, she was gone. She took the children, her few belongings, and that silence I had mistaken for peace, but it turned out to be the death rattle of our family. The note had only a few words, which still ring in my ears louder than any factory press. "We are tired of waiting for you to come home, Joe. We didn't need things. We needed you. But you haven't been here for years. Now I have everything I once dreamed of in that miserable room back in 75. I have a decent pension as a labor veteran, a spacious apartment full of expensive but completely useless things, dusty certificates, and medals for labor valor in the cabinet. But this house is the most terrifying and quiet prison in the world. I sit in this kitchen, and the silence is interrupted only by the monotonous ticking of an old wall clock, counting down the time that can never be returned. I look at a yellowed photo from the late 70s there, where Marina and I are young, beautiful, and full of hope at the May Day parade. I traded their laughter for a cast iron production plan. I traded their love for overtime and the praise of the shop foreman. Now my final factory whistle has blown, the shift is over, but I have nowhere left to go. I am the only one left in this huge, empty, and cold workshop of my own life. And there is no one left to even turn out the light.